And hello, friends. We welcome you to another episode of Chapters here on Armstrong Television. Chapters is the show that profiles authors, editors, and publishers in West Virginia, Ohio, and Kentucky. I'm Eliot Parker, and it's great to have you with us. We are joined today by author Kathleen Jacobs as she celebrates her debut collection, her debut novel, a young adult novel titled Honeysuckle Holiday. And Kathleen Jacobs joins us here today to talk to us about that. And her work has appeared in regional and national publications. She holds a Master of Arts degree in Humanistic Studies and has taught English and creative writing on the high school and college levels. She divides her time between the Appalachian region and New York City. And Honeysuckle Holiday is her first young adult novel. And she has also recently been awarded the 2017 Winter Writer in Residence at the New River Gorge Writers event at Lafayette Flats, and we'll talk more with her about that here in just a little bit. So we'd like to welcome Kathleen Jacobs to Chapters here today. Kathleen, good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Eliot. It's great to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely. So I know we talked a little bit before we started taping our show here about how this novel came together, and I understand that this was something that you had been working on for quite a long time and weren't even really sure that you were going to publish it. Tell us a little bit about that story.
That's correct. The process of Honeysuckle Holiday started probably 10 or 12 years ago, and the process was I started right about the time I began my teaching career at Charleston Catholic High School in Charleston, West Virginia, and I played around with the idea in my head for quite some time, many years, and then I started jotting down some story ideas and outlining, and little by little over the years I attended various writing conferences across the United States. Very fortunate to have been accepted at Swanee Writers Conference, and that's when I really started to get what I call serious about the work. And it was probably about a 10 or 12 year process. And my husband was the one who encouraged me to get this book published because I wasn't going to publish it. I was writing it simply for myself. And I think in an effort to work with my students at Charleston Catholic who were enrolled in creative writing class. And so I felt, well, I need to be kind of not just talking about what I'm doing, but I need to show what I'm doing too, to kind of encourage them. So I think that was kind of, the energy behind getting this out there. And but my husband, John, said after this was complete, he said, you're going to get this published, correct? And I said, well, no, I hadn't planned on getting it published. He said, oh, yes, we're getting this published. And so we kind of took it from there. And the journey has been incredible, very humbling, very gratifying. The feedback has exceeded any expectation I had for the novel, and something I'm very, very proud of.
That's great. And you got this published with Jan Carroll Publishing. So tell us a little bit about how you got connected with them and what the relationship has been like working with them on publishing your book.
Sure. Jan Carroll Publishing is located in Johnson City, Tennessee. Janie Jesse is the publisher with a team of two other staff members. Actually, I think she has 3 staff members, but Tammy Robinson Smith and Tara Sizemore, the team I work with mainly. I knew when I started down this publication road that I was not necessarily wanting to go traditional publishing route because I wanted a little more control over the book. And I knew I did not want to go self-publishing. So I began to do some research and came across hybrid publishers and discovered Jan Carroll Publishing. I was impressed with what they were doing. I talked with them on the phone. We exchanged emails. It was a rather detailed process, but I was impressed with the amount of attention that they gave. And how clear they were in their vision, and how it was crystal clear that they put the author first, working with the author and letting the author have more control over the publication process. For instance, the cover of the book. I always knew that if I ever did get this book published, that the person who would design the cover would be a former Charleston Catholic high school student of mine who is a very talented writer and a very talented graphic arts designer. And so I contacted Anna Hartman. I contacted her. She lives in Charleston, South Carolina now. And as a beautiful family, I contacted Anna, and she was actually one of my readers for the work as well. I have about 6 readers that I depend on very, very much so to get me through this process. And I invited Anna to design the cover for the book, and she did. And that was actually the first cover she sent me. And she said, now we can go different directions. This is just a start. And I said, oh, no, this is not just a start. This is the cover for this book. And every day I look at it, I'm still taken with the cover design. I think she did a beautiful job.
She did a fantastic job,
Thank you.
And it looks great. It looks great, and we'll certainly put that cover up on our screen so that the audience can get a look at it as well as we talk more about it. But this is a great story because you have a 12-year-old protagonist, Lucy, but she's also got a sister, Caroline.
Yes.
We're in the South. It's 1960s,
Right.
and this story centers around the disappearance of their father.
That's correct.
So tell us a little bit before we get to the father and what happens to him. Tell us a little bit about Lucy and Caroline. How are they similar and how are they different in terms of characters and how they interrelate as sisters?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. Well, first of all, I drew a lot of the storyline from my childhood growing up in the South in the 60s. And folks who know me know immediately that I am Lucy. Again, this is a work of fiction. Let me stress that, because my father was not a member of the KKK, and that's really pretty much where Lucy becomes, where she really addresses this coming of age, this moment in her life when what she thought was real ends up being just the opposite. So she grows up in a very privileged family, very close-knit family, very engaged family. And then suddenly and very mysteriously, the parents announce they're getting a divorce, and they don't tell the children why. So as the story progresses, Lucy and Caroline work together and separately to try to put the pieces of this puzzle together to find out what he has done. And in the process, when they do discover what he's done, is so atrocious that it is barely forgivable. And the mother has such strength and such courage in this story, and she picks up her kids and moves from this life of privilege to one of near marginality. And the children do come to find out what their father has done, but it is through the assistance, the guidance, the wisdom of Lila, this black woman that the mother hires to help her with the children after they move, that brings this family full circle to understand that the way they think about things needs to be reevaluated. And I think Lucy and Caroline are, at one moment, I think they're so real. At one moment, they're so close that they can barely find the space to separate. They don't even want to look for the space to separate from one another. And then by the same token, there are moments when Caroline just has it with Lucy because Lucy's so inquisitive and she gets so aggravated with her sometimes, as sisters can do with one another. But in the end, that friendship that they share, that bond that they share, is unbreakable. And
they're really good characters because you see those moments where they do act like sisters, and then but at the same time you've developed them to where they're two standalone different people. One of the things that's interesting, we see Lucy telling the story for the most part, and this kind of takes place, a lot of the events between Christmas of 1965 and the following summer, so a compressed time frame. And you mentioned that the heinous action there, and basically the father is arrested and disappears for his role in the murder of two African American teenagers, which unfortunately was a part of the South during the period in which you write. But one of the things we see too is the psychological effects that Lucy carries with her after this trauma. Tell us a little bit about that and how important that was to give her that trauma that we see carrying along as the story goes on, because we see her words, we see her actions, but we see this mental trauma that she carries with her. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Oh, thanks, Eliot. That's an awesome question to raise. I think well, let's see, where can we start with this? I think from a psychological standpoint, we as adults have a tendency to think that kids are going to be able to work through these issues, whatever those issues are, on their own. And we fail to recognize that they really carry those issues with them, and seldom are they asked about those issues. I think especially during that time period in the 60s, so much was kept private. You don't talk about things that are going on behind closed doors in your home. That's kept private. That's kept in the home. I think today we see more of that transparency than there was in the 60s for children. And so I think there are moments when Lucy doesn't want to be that into those feelings that she's having. She wants to just be a kid. She wants to be out there. She wants to go to the drugstore. She wants to buy her Barbie clothes. And then at the same time, the flip side of that coin is she's dealing with a family that is unraveling completely. It's 360 degrees unraveling. And so she's not quite sure how to deal with that. And I think it's through, I think Lila brings that out and almost invites her to explore those psychological issues that she has. I think Caroline, on the other hand, is a little more detached from it. I think Caroline has this almost has a maturity about her that is beyond her years. She's able to see things clearer than Lucy is seeing them. I think Lucy is more of an emotional being. She tends to things really, she's very sensitive, and at the times that she finds herself being sensitive, she doesn't like it. She wants to be more like Caroline, a little more detached, but she is who she is, and she keeps weaving herself back into the fabric of what's going on in the family. And I think that is her way of dealing with it, just like Caroline's is more detached. That works for her. And I think that those differences in those two characters, what really brings them together.
Absolutely. And I know that Lucy really patterns herself, or one of her heroes, as we learn in the story, is Scout from her favorite book, To Kill a Mockingbird.
Correct.
And I wanted to read one quote that I really like, because I can see a parallel to this exchange from what you might see in To Kill a Mockingbird, which is one of those books that just changed my life. And when I think about 5 or 10 books that changed me as a person and a reader, To Kill a Mockingbird is up there. And so I'm so happy to see that mentioned in your book. But Lucy and Lila, as you're talking about, the woman, the African-American woman who comes to stay with them, Lucy tells Lila, she says, "I never saw a colored person in church before, and we don't have any colored children in our school. And come to think of it, I didn't see any colored nuns at the convent." And then Lila asks her, "What do you think about that?" Lucy can't answer. And I think that you look at To Kill a Mockingbird and that whole relationship of Atticus and Scout as the whole Boo Radley situation's going on, and you can see almost them having that same conversation that Lila has with Lucy, and I think that's a fantastic connection there between those two stories. Did To Kill a Mockingbird, as you were writing this story, did that pop up a lot, or was it something that kind of developed organically as you were writing the book, or did you want to pattern them after some of the storylines or the characters in To Kill a Mockingbird?
Where do we start with To Kill a Mockingbird, Eliot? We could do hours just talking about To Kill a Mockingbird. It remains the most influential read of my life. I have read other stunning works naturally, but To Kill a Mockingbird is in my pocket. The characters are in my pocket. They're a part of my very fiber when it comes to reading and to writing. I know years ago when I first started teaching at Charleston Catholic High School, the year after my first year, I was given the opportunity to teach creative writing to seniors who were serious about the writing. And I had an amazing group of students that year. And the summer prior to the start of school, I actually penned a letter to Harper Lee, and knowing full well that I probably wouldn't get a response. But I thought, why not? So I sat down, wrote the letter, and it was a couple weeks before school started. And I went to the post office one day in Charleston, and I picked up the mail, and in the mail there was a small white envelope with my name and address typed on it, like from a manual typewriter. And my first thought was, well, this is a clever marketing tool. Makes it look like you've just picked me out, like I'm special. And I thought, well, I don't know what this is. So I stood there in the post office and I opened it, and it was a letter from Harper Lee.
Wow.
And I lost it in the middle of downtown Charleston post office. Seriously, I was shouting, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." I was almost hyperventilating. So all the business people are getting their mail, and everybody stops because I knew most of them anyway. And Kathy, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I got a letter from Harper Lee. And in the letter, and I shared it with my students, of course it was framed. It had a spot of prominence on my desk. And in the letter, she said, I'd asked her for advice for my young writing students. And she said something that I will never forget. She said, don't fall in love with your work to the point where you can't edit it, where you can't be objective enough to edit it. And that's what I had to do with Honeysuckle Holiday, because I was in love with these characters, and I had to keep telling myself, you cannot be in love with them, you cannot be in love with them, you're not going to be able to be objective about what you're writing. In talking about Lila, and mentioning that connection to Kill a Mockingbird, again, I think those voices were so crystal clear to me, that whether or not I intentionally made that a mark in the book, I don't think it was intentional. I think it's part of my fiber. I think it's just that work is so profound for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the parallels there are so good and so wonderful, and I'm so glad that To Kill a Mockingbird influenced you in such a way. Another scene I wanted to ask you about is, and this occurs about midway through the book, Lucy and Caroline, going back to them for just a moment. Lucy kind of marvels at Caroline. We don't see her in many ways sort of admiring her sister, but in this one scene she does, because Lucy marvels when Caroline stands up to bullies who are teasing them about Lila, about Lila's presence in their life. Tell us a little bit about that scene and kind of what Caroline does and why Lucy sort of marvels at her for that.
I think Lucy wants to do that. I think Lucy wants to be like Caroline. She admires Caroline. She looks up to her, and she wants to emulate her behavior, but she doesn't have the confidence and the self-esteem that Caroline has. Caroline can look at a situation and react to it beautifully and perfectly, and then just move on to the next event in her life. Whereas Lucy likes to dismantle everything. She likes to think about it, and, oh, I should have done this, I should have done that, and why didn't I think about that? And where does she get that kind of courage? I don't have that kind of courage. I think Lucy has it inside her, but to bring that out, she's not able to do that. And I think she relies so heavily on Caroline to do that, that it's almost a crutch in a way. Well, she knows that she doesn't have to do that part of it because Caroline's going to do that for her. Yeah. And yet she does so want to be like her. I think she looks to her for guidance, and she becomes a model for her of who she wants to be when she grows up. But she still wants to hold on to who she is too.
Yeah. So she's fighting so it's sort of that duality then,
Sure.
then in the story.
Sure.
Excellent, very good. I wanted to ask you too, Kathleen, because I know you've taught for a long time, taught creative writing, taken creative writing classes, and have now written Honeysuckle Holiday. When we think about young adult literature, what is it that makes it so popular? I mean, not necessarily maybe, well, to the students who read it, but I know a lot of adults who have really gotten into reading young adult literature, and they're reading like the Hunger Games. They are reading James Dashner's series about the children that are kidnapped and kind of put behind the wall. I mean, they're reading a lot of young adult. What is it about young adult novels, do you think, that young adult writing that even to adults still has an appealing effect?
I think, again, this might go back to what we talked about a little bit ago about that privacy that we grew up with. Those of us who are attracted to young adult work, I think it was a different mindset then. Again, it was very private, and we held it very close to our hearts, and we did not share that. We weren't invited to share it. So I think and you're correct, Eliot, adults are now, I think the last statistic I saw, that adults are the ones who are really reading young adult now. They're choosing young adult. And again, I think it's because they see a part of themselves in these stories that is so, the characters are so confident and their self-esteem for a majority of the cases, their self-esteem is high. And so the current adults did not do that when they were young adults. They held back. And so to find a character that is vocal, and a character that has confidence and has a lot of self-esteem and just puts it out there, I think we're in awe of that. And Anna recently said to me, "Awe is a good place to be." And so I think we come to, again, I think you can go back to To Kill a Mockingbird with Scout. I mean, she was feisty, and she was very opinionated. And of course, it opened doors for her, but it also put her in a spot where she was uncertain as to what was going on around her. And then when she had that clarity, she not only got it, everybody around her got it. And that's when it comes full circle, I think. So when adults are reading these young adult novels now, they're getting it, and they're saying, "Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I thought that. That's cool. I had that same feeling. Oh, neat. And I'm going to handle it like this." So all of a sudden we're admiring, we're whatever age we are, and we're admiring these 12, 14, 16-year-old characters in these books that really tug at our heartstrings and also bring us some clarity into our life, and that's a gift. That's a beautiful gift.
Absolutely, I totally agree. So we mentioned that you are part of the 2007 Winter Writer in Residence, or one of the Winter Writer in Residence residency winners. That's going to be taking place at Lafayette Flats in Fayetteville, West Virginia, all the way through from January through March of 2017. So tell us a little bit about what that is and what your role is there and how you got that invitation.
It's exhilarating. It has been exhilarating since I moved in January 2nd. I applied for the residency. I contacted the owners of Lafayette Flats, which I had found online, this writer's residency for the winter. And I thought, oh, cool. I need to check into this, and cool that it's as close to Charleston as it is. I didn't know about this, and so the further I researched the opportunity, I decided to make application. It's the third year that the Writer in Residence program has been awarded. The owners, Amy McLaughlin and Sean Means, wanted to provide a space for a writer to enjoy uninterrupted and really explore their craft and at the same time present an alternative narrative of West Virginia, taking us away, trying to continue to take us in the direction of away from old stereotypes of West Virginia and West Virginians, and introduce to the world, to the country, that there is an alternative narrative, that what we're doing here in the state of West Virginia is new and fresh and inviting. And they purchased Lafayette Flats and renovated this building. They offer 4 flats to vacationers in the New River Gorge area. And again, this was 3rd year that they invited a writer. It has been an incredible experience. They're awesome to work with. Everyone in the area is very inviting. It's going much too quickly. It will end for me in March, but I have already told Amy and Sean that they're going to have to probably evict me because I'm not leaving. And but it's great. And being from Fayette County, well, I'm from St. Louis, but I moved to Fayette County when I was 11. And so I think I can call myself a West Virginian at this point. And I right now I'm working on a children's book which takes place in Fayette County. So to actually be situated in Fayette County at the Lafayette Flats and to be able to go out and about and weave all these 5 senses into that work when it's right out my front door, it's an incredible experience. It's very humbling and very gratifying.
That's fantastic,
So,
and congratulations on winning that fellowship. That's a great
Thank you.
honor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, in our final moments with you, Kathleen, if someone in our audience wants to get in contact with you to talk to you about Honeysuckle Holiday, or talk to you about your writer in residence at Lafayette Flats, or just find out more information about you, first of all, how can they get in contact with you, and where can they get a copy of Honeysuckle Holiday?
Great, thanks for asking. Honeysuckle Holiday is available through my publisher, of course, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, any independently owned bookstore. You can also go onto my website, which is www.kathleenmjacobs.com, and you can order it there. It has done exceptionally well. The reviews are just stellar, and that's not a word I use lightly. I never knew that I would describe my book as stellar, but it's online. You go to Kirkus Goodreads, and Amazon for reviews. And again, if you want to get in touch with me, there's a contact on my webpage, and it'll go directly to my email. So.
Very good. Kathleen Jacobs has been our guest today here on Chapters. We've been talking to her about her newest collection, her newest novel, her young adult novel, Honeysuckle Holiday. And when she talks about all the great reviews and the stellar reviews she's been getting, she is telling the truth, because it's an outstanding book, a wonderful book. And anybody that likes young adult fiction, or has got someone in their household or related to someone and they're trying to get them to read, this would be an excellent book for them as they follow Lucy and Caroline's story and their family, and Lila and the father and the mother. It's just a great book for so many reasons, and congratulations to you, Kathleen, on it. And as your children's book comes out later on in the spring of 2017, we'll have you back on Chapters to talk about it. So congratulations.
Oh, I'd love it. Thank you, Eliot. It's been a real joy to be here. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. My pleasure. And we want to take a moment to thank the staff and management of Empire Books and News for providing our on-site support and assistance today. So come by, talk to Christine Dargish and her staff, and they can get you taken care of with any reading taste that you may need satisfied right here at Empire Books and News. And we appreciate their sponsorship of our program each and every episode here on Chapters. And if you like to interact with social media, we've got a variety of different platforms to make that possible for you. One of the easiest ways you can reach us here on the program is via email. Our email address is right here at the bottom of the screen. Please make sure that you write your name and where you are writing from when you send us that correspondence, so that we can keep track of that. If you like to watch programs on YouTube and you like to keep up with the Chapters program on YouTube, we have an Armstrong One Wire page via the YouTube channel through Armstrong Television, and that address is right here at the bottom of the screen as well. Once you type that into your search bar, just click on the Chapters tab, and there you can find over 3 years of author, editor, and publisher interviews archived for you there as well. And we also have a Facebook page page. If you're a Facebook user, just go to facebook.com, type in the Chapters or Chapters Television Show in that information in the search tab at the top of the screen, and you can be connected to our most recent author, editor, and publisher interviews archived for you there as well, and also interact with viewers of the program through Facebook. So if you like Facebook, you like YouTube, or you like email, we've made it possible for you to stay in touch with the program right here through those social media platforms, and we know many of you have done that, and we appreciate that so much. So please keep those comments and feedback coming. And that's going to do it for us this time on Chapters, but please come again next time, and in the meantime, stay tuned to this station for news and views that impact you and your community.